Welcome to the latest episode of WSP's Anticipate podcast. I'm your host, Alia Abdulmalik, a project manager for WSP Middle East Project Management Services business. As fundamental transformations in the education sector emerge, digital breakthroughs and blue sky thinking are helping us reimagine learning ecosystems in an evolving world. This is evident in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where world-class education projects aren't just changing the way knowledge is taught, they're changing the paradigm altogether and giving new meaning to the interplay between students and their learning environments. In this episode, we discuss how digital-first thinking, holistic innovation, and flexible placemaking are laying the foundation for learning environments that will empower students to take charge of the spaces in which they learn. I'm honored to be joined today by Brendan Law, who is the Director General of Misk Schools based in Riyadh, as well as Nizar Jegham, a Digital Advisory Director for WSP Middle East. Brendan, Nizar, thank you for joining. To begin, could you offer our listeners some background on your respective roles? Brendan, if you'd like to start.
Thanks very much, Alia, and good to meet you both. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to be able to share points around education, which is my passion, of course. I'm Director General of Misk Schools, and a very honourable position to be in terms of developing and growing a wonderful new school here within Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. So working alongside wonderful colleagues here in the school to grow and develop that. But also I'm part of the wider ranging Misk Foundation, which is Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman founded a number of years ago now, with the intention of growing and developing youth within Saudi Arabia in a number of different areas, which no doubt we'll discuss later. So I form part of the wider ranging Misk Foundation, but my specific role is here within Misk Schools as Director General.
And Nizar?
Thank you, Alia. Happy to be here and happy to share some perspective around digital education. So I am Nizar Jegham, and I have recently joined WSP to lead the digital advisory practice in the region. So the ambition of digital advisory is to help the client use and leverage technology, data, and service delivery model to achieve their different business objectives. And we support the client from creating, implementing strategies for smart cities, community, and places, but also we help them in organizing and making sense of their data through modeling and analytics to generate the relevant insights and also protect their data. We also help our clients balancing the cost versus the performance of their assets. And here, when we say asset, it can be a school, it can be a building, it can be a plant, and optimize these performance throughout the life cycle through asset management, through digital twin, and so on and so forth.
Thank you both for sharing. As we look at KSA's Vision 2030, there's a clear ambition to create bespoke and unique world-class improvements in many sectors. Brendan, can you expand on the philosophy behind Misk Schools and how this aims to propel the country's education sector?
Yeah, with pleasure. Education, of course, I think in Saudi Arabia, as indeed in most places in the world, is recognized as one of the front-running places where change can be led. If you start at the grassroots level, my area, of course, is K-12 education, and Misk Schools is set up very much with K-12 in mind. And so getting in at grassroots level is really, really important. So our vision, as defined by our founder, His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, is to work specifically on a new paradigm in education to transform the educational landscape, firstly within as a school entity. And so obviously our focus right now is on our current students. We have a child-centered philosophy in terms of what we do at Misk Schools. Our focus is very much on our current children and giving them the best possible educational opportunities. But there's a wider remit to it, which is to grow and develop new initiatives in education, to be innovative, to be groundbreaking, to be pioneering in many ways, and to not necessarily be disruptive in the sense of trying to be way out there, but to do things which we believe will align very well with Vision 2030. And where we're going as a school is really aligned to where the kingdom is going with Vision 2030. And so we look very closely at Vision 2030 in the shaping and the development of our curriculum, in the shaping and the development of our vision and our values, whether that be in, for example, the 11 commissions that are formed, that form part of the Vision 2030. And if you look at the 11 commissions, you're looking at a wide-ranging area of school life beyond the classroom. Traditional education is very focused on the traditional subjects: Arabic, English, maths, science, etc. And traditional education also really focuses, particularly here in Saudi, on some of the more traditional styles of education. So, rote learning and knowledge-based education, which has been the way for the last 20, 30 years, not just here, but worldwide. An obsession with assessment, with summative assessments, with giving children really final exam results and teach to the test methodologies, et cetera, et cetera. That's been the world's education for over 100 years even. And it's Victorian in its mindset, and it needs to change. And so for us, we have this opportunity to really grow and develop within Saudi Arabia the means by which children can be opened up in terms of their curiosity, in terms of the way in which they learn, in the way in which they think, and to become creative, maker-centered beings in their own right. So for us, alongside looking at Vision 2030 and ensuring that our curriculum encapsulates that, and the building and the development of a new campus, which we're engaged with WSP and others in at the moment, is to look at ways in which we can create space which is really innovative and effective to improve learning opportunities for children, and also to look at the curriculum itself. And for us, that means making sure that the learning is personalized. In other words, it's not fitting the child to the curriculum, which is traditional, but actually to fit the curriculum to the child, to give each and every child within our curriculum a personalized learning pathway. And I can elaborate on that in due course, perhaps. We want our children to have experiential learning. In other words, it's not just a question of listening to what the teacher says and then regurgitating that on paper. It's actually for them to experience their learning, to take charge of their learning, to come up with their own ideas relating to their learning, to be creative in their learning. We want them to be maker-centric. We want them not to be users and consumers, but actually to be creators. So rather than being somebody who's good at using Word and PowerPoint and well-established tools, but actually to come up with creation of new tools and new technologies and utilizing technology in a way that actually then creates something new that's never been in existence before. And children can do that. They really can. We've got a boy aged 9 who is in an internship program right now as we speak, goes off during his holidays and works within a coding company. And does an internship. That kind of thing can happen with children as young as 9. We want to essentially take the lid off education. We want to create an unfettered education environment, both in terms of the learning space, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, a bit later, but also in terms of how we assess children. Rather than assessing purely for an end of test result or test result based on an end of topic test, to say we want to actually come up with new learning methodologies and new ways of assessing children, which go well beyond the taking of a test. We want to learn ways in which and create ways in which we can provide a digital passport for a child, which considers, for example, their emotional intelligence. It considers their tenacity, their grit, their determination. And when we present them to the outside world, whether that be an employer like WSP or whether that be a university like one of the Ivy League universities that our children aspire to go and attend, that they will see a child with a full portfolio, the holistic child that we have presented and provided from age 3 to 18 with incredible opportunities for learning.
Much like Misk schools, one of WSP's guiding principles is challenging the status quo. So Nizar, could you share with us how WSP's Smart Places team is working to create evolvable places based on human-centric design?
I think the new approach to education, it was taking into consideration the Vision 2030 and how the kingdom is going through this journey, was really very well summarized by Brendan. In terms of WSP, our role, we see it as an enabler in general, as an enabler of this journey. So obviously, as WSP, the engineering firm, we help on the physical aspect, fit for purpose design and so on from a physical standpoint. Zooming in, if I would say, into digital, our role is to really start from the experience, from the user experience. And this is what we call human-centric design. So we start from the student, the professor, the operation manager within the school, identifying what the user journeys are and how digital can help make these journey more efficient and more comfortable. All of this, obviously, in consideration with their specific context. A school requires a different tool or a different approach than a hospital, for instance. So here, technology is the enabler of those objectives. So another challenge also we help with is, after defining what is needed, what these user journey are, and what technologies are needed to enable them. The challenge for we help our client address is what would be the relevant market solution for them. What would be the relevant solution, and what we mean by solution here is really the combination of technology and the type of agreement they can have with their solution provider. It can be it can be service based, it can be performance based, it can be licensed. So we help our client identify and choose these solutions based on their criteria. And this is an illustration, for example, of what we did with Misk recently, in helping them identifying for their smart city strategy what would be the solution provider for them, given their specific requirement and their context.
Thank you, Nizar. Brendan, this one's for you. I believe you have an interesting analogy about foundation setting, which references the Leaning Tower of Pisa and Dubai's Burj Khalifa. Do you mind sharing that with us?
I had to smile when I saw and I heard that question, because you've obviously done your research. It's actually something when I first arrived here on the 7th of August in 2019. That was my first day with the school team here, and what I wanted to ensure, I think with education, with change management, with new paradigms in education, there's always a great danger that everyone shoots off with technology or with new ideas, fresh ideas, etc., etc. And in so doing, actually, they forget about the importance of foundation. We're talking in an engineering context here, so I guess my analogy might help from a building point of view. But it's based on actually my experience over the last 15 years or so of building new schools in the UAE and now here in Saudi, of course. The least glamorous but possibly most important work is done by the company that puts the piles in, for example, the UAE, which is very soft sand, and you need to put piles right down to the bedrock. Burj Khalifa goes down 160 meters, although it goes up 860 meters up into the sky. Actually, 160 meters is below ground. Nobody ever sees the quality of that work, and yet it's so important. And if those guys get it wrong, then the rest of the building is inconsequential. Because it's never going to function well. And so the analogy is really looking at the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which is a beautiful building, but without foundations. And we all know the issues that building is facing. And they're constantly having to go in behind, back in time to re-engineer. And yet in a context such as Burj Khalifa, beautifully built building, but also because it's based on solid foundations. And in education, it's very much the same. It's very easy to get so caught up in new technology, in innovation, in all of these exciting new tools that are available. And of course, COVID has come along and really disrupted education even further. And it's given us the amazing new tools that we have that we can really enhance and develop on education. Of course, we need to do that. But let's never forget the fundamentals, the core business of education, which is really about human relationships. We're talking on screen here at the moment into microphones. And looking into cameras. But there's no better way than for human interface for learning to take place. So some of those core fundamentals, those foundations are really critical. And it's the same in schools when it comes to reading, writing, good mental skills in the sense of remembering times tables, even going back to the very, very basics in Islamic studies, some recitation work. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater when you get to the new technologies. And I think there's a great danger sometimes of schools trying to build at the top of the Burj Khalifa, try to build up in the clouds before they've actually put the foundations in. And if that happens, that's when the Leaning Tower of Pisa happens. That's when the building starts falling down before it's even had a chance to really grow and develop. So what we've done at Misk, the schools is to refocus the last 2 years, in fact, alongside some really cutting edge, exciting new innovations. We've also taken the school back to basics. And over the last period of time, and particularly through COVID, rather than trying to be too clever and too creative, we've kept things simple and consistent and focused around some of the core business that makes education tick. Children, before they do anything else, need to know how to read. They need to know how to write. They need to know how to do core maths. They need to know for the extensive things that we will take them on their curriculum journey. We need to give them the foundations of reading, writing, arithmetic, and the core business of education. That's why I think foundations are so important, and that's why I used that analogy 2 years ago. And we continue to uphold that today, even though we're doing some really cutting edge and very innovative things in the area of digital space and especially around the new design of the school campus. And the new campus will also have a lot of foundational stuff, core business, good basic things children need to learn, such as, for example, fine motor skills and gross motor skills. Some of those areas of playgrounds, etc. We don't want children to be wearing headsets all day, looking at a virtual reality. They've got to go back to the basics. They've got to, literally do balance exercises and those basics. You can't throw the foundations out because the building will fall down.
Thank you. You touched upon it in your answer, but from the new modes of learning to increase digital uptake, the COVID-19 pandemic has presented numerous challenges for the education sector and all sectors. Can you share with us your thoughts about these challenges and how they accelerated new opportunities for the sector?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's been an exciting time, difficult time, challenging time. And here at Misk schools, for example, we made a lot of mistakes in the early days. It was literally one day we were in school, the next day we were at home. And our digital platforms and particularly our tools of learning in an online environment and fully under lockdown conditions, we're not up to it in the early days. And we had to learn very quickly to adapt, and we had to redevise and recreate some of our tools and to create learning platforms that we didn't necessarily have in place, should have potentially had in place, but didn't. And so we went back to some of the basics. For us, it was really just utilizing tools that are in existence at the moment. Nothing too exciting, but as I said earlier, sometimes simple is best, consistent is best. Things that we knew would deliver the curriculum in an effective way for parents as well. Remember, let's not forget that the parents needed to get up to speed fast. They were suddenly tasked with being at home with their children and being parents, role models, teachers, and trying to do their day jobs, et cetera, et cetera. It was an incredibly challenging time for the families as a whole. So what our job was to provide learning tools. This wasn't particularly exciting. Again, this is foundational stuff. The Google Suite, for example, is a tool that we used. There's a great tool out there called Seesaw, which is excellent for some of the younger children. Their ability to connect and in an online environment to be able to be given tasks by the teachers, etc. So we trained our staff up really quickly in the use of tools that we knew would deliver what we needed them to do, rather than trying to create a whole new package of really exciting new stuff at a time when really actually we just needed to get back to the fundamentals to deliver the curriculum. And we had a great comment at the end of last academic year in our feedback sessions with parents. One of the mums said to us, Misk mothers are the only ones in Riyadh not complaining about online learning. And we knew that we'd ticked the box and got it right. Not because we did anything particularly exciting. Her follow-up comment to that was along the lines of, we all knew what we were expected to do and we got on with it and we did it, and the school kept consistent and kept delivering. And then it came down to obviously the quality of the teachers and the quality of the teachers in front of the children, even if they couldn't be in a human context face to face. And so that's pretty much how we got through the pandemic. But in terms of some of the exciting times ahead, and we're in hybrid still, even to this day in Saudi Arabia, we're teaching our younger children mostly online. We bring them in bubbles, but mostly they're still online. But there are some very exciting things that we've learned through this experience. For example, we can take our curriculum and really expand it now, because we know the value of online. We know how effective it can be. And our results were tremendous. Actually, we beat all of the US and Saudi norms in terms of results. And I'm talking about norms under normal conditions. So the children made progress through the pandemic and continue to make progress within our curriculum through the use of these tools by excellent teachers doing great things with those tools. We managed to actually beat the odds in terms of the children's progress and results. But also what it's opened our eyes to is the ability to be able to utilize some of these tools. We're also adept now at being online and doing these things. So why not connect with a university, maybe an Ivy League university, and to run a course where our children attend a course at Harvard here from Riyadh rather than having to get on a plane? Why not be disruptive in the context of how we can expand the curriculum to bring on new opportunities of learning for children, which they couldn't possibly have had pre-COVID, because it would have been very expensive or very impractical to send them abroad. Now we've got access to the world. We can do partnerships with other schools in different parts of the world where our children can suddenly get their globalization skills developed in a way that if they're based here purely in Saudi within this beautiful environment that is Misk, now suddenly they can actually attend practical lessons with other schools and be part of that. We can get involved in community projects in Africa or in other regions of the GCC, etc., etc. There's so many ways in which we can take the lid off education by utilizing these tools and being more and more creative. So now that the foundations are solidly in place, we're looking at many other opportunities outside of the normal curriculum to utilize the tools at our disposal that we've all become adept at using in very effective and creative ways.
Nizar, do you have any thoughts on this question? How COVID-19 pandemic presented numerous challenges and what opportunities we got out of it?
The only thing I would like to add is I would agree on the fact that the pandemic has triggered the need to use digital solution to deliver education. I agree with Brendan in the sense that it is a transition, not a disconnect from whatever was done before. So we are building on the way education was delivered before, and we are leveraging digital tool which offer another set of horizons and opportunities that we can lean on.
Thank you, Nizar. With a view towards adopting digital, can cutting-edge high-tech education environments help deliver personalized learning experiences? Nizar, you can maybe start off with this one.
The opportunities offered by digital are tremendous, and the example given by Brendan, allowing students in Saudi Arabia enrolling in curriculum with Ivy League universities or partnership with African universities and so on. These are just, I think, examples of what can be done. But I think what is important is that in the kingdom, the foundation are there, in the sense of you can deliver this digital experience because the bases are there. And when I mean the bases is that in terms of connectivities and tools. So with 90% of broadband internet connectivity, 90% of penetration, with all these ongoing investment in 5G and fiber, I think the kingdom was already well positioned for this transition, and it started a few years ago with the vision 2030, and with the role of digital and for this vision 2030, there was with the work done by the National Digitization Unit around digital society, digital nation, digital people, and the central role or a central key interest that was put in education as a critical sector where the focus should be put on. So to summarize, I think the foundation are there and the tools are there to enable this experience, which will be shaped obviously by the education professional and the education institution like Misk, like other organization in the kingdom.
Thanks, Nizar. Brendan, can you share with us your views on whether digital spaces and physical spaces can coexist in an education setting? And maybe what that looks like in the future, what the learning ecosystem will look like in our future?
Yeah, I mean, what an exciting time to be part of that. Without a doubt, they can coexist. In fact, they must coexist. And as I was saying earlier with the analogy around the foundations as well as the tower, it's the digital area is actually the really innovative and exciting stuff that the children get very, very excited about. And they're probably less excited about, learning their times tables than they are about getting stuck into some of the new digital technologies. Of course, they want to put their headsets on rather than doing some of the bump and grind stuff that comes with education. You've got to have both. And so, as I was saying earlier, in terms of the learning space, We must create opportunities for children to really be taken into these new paradigms. On our new campus, for example, we're building an incredible esports facility alongside the traditional sports halls and 50-meter pool, et cetera, et cetera. We want children to be in that maker-centered digital space. And esports is an incredible technology as one example of how it's going. I'm a traditionalist. You can see by my gray hair that I've been in education far longer probably than you were even born, Alia. And yet but nevertheless, I think in terms of how we look at space and we look at learning opportunities for children, we need to get them physically active and engaged and doing some of the more traditional sports, for example, but not at the expense of the opportunities that come in the digital space. And of course, they're very excited about esports, and they're very excited about not just using other people's games, but creating their own games. We also use technology in all sorts of interesting ways. We've just partnered actually with Sadaya, which is the Saudi Data Artificial Intelligence Authority. We're working very closely in partnership with them on a number of exciting projects, one of which is the use of artificial intelligence for registration of students. There's software available where literally through face recognition software, as the child walks through the gate, they will be picked up artificially through AI and registered immediately. So the traditional way of registering children in the classroom with as you probably remember from your school days, with a piece of paper and a register and tick, 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 is now going. There's no real need for that anymore because actually artificial intelligence can help us. And that's one basic bit of admin that can now be replaced through the use of fantastic technology, which was a complete waste of time, to be honest. I mean, it's essential. Registration is essential. And we report to the Ministry of Education every day on our registration. But at the same time, we can do it now in the blink of an eye, so that 5 or 10 minutes of registration can now be used for well-being time. Because the children in the classroom can now actually have 10 more minutes of engagement with their teacher around possibly a thought for the day or whatever it's going to be. So we've got the opportunity to let technology enable us to get back to some of those other foundational tools in a more real and radical way. There are other ways in which we use technology, such as for coding, and we partner with the Cybersecurity Federation, for example. And a lot of our students go off for boot camps. And do coding practice, etc. I told you about the internship earlier. Similar sorts of opportunities for children to get out there and be in the digital space. But at the same time, the maker-centric it also includes, and in terms of our new school campus and the new development that we're putting in place, we're putting in a mechatronics and engineering suite that will blow your mind. The new campus is going to be a really, really exciting place to be as a student. It's going to include digital design, but it's also going to include real engineering, where the children are utilizing their coding skills to create robots and to build their own robots, not to take a Lego robot and then code it and make the Lego robot that somebody else has built and created. They will build that thing from scratch. They will use the technology, utilizing real tools. And we'll partner with a company like Siemens, for example, here in Riyadh, and they will go on internships. And maybe one afternoon a week, our curriculum will be shaped in such a way, personalized in such a way, that they can leave Misk School's campus, go into the Siemens company, and work on projects within Siemens. And Siemens engineers come to us and work within our engineering space, which will be equally well equipped as you might expect in the real world of work. And our equipment levels will be such that our children can then be working on those projects in school as well as in the engineering firms. Why not have children as young as 12, 14, 16 involved in real world problem solving with real world engineering skills that can then also transform things, maybe come up with solutions to water problems in Saudi, for example, which are engineered from within the school. So, I mean, in all sorts of ways, you can take technology and the rapid development of technology and utilize it within the learning space in really new and creative and exciting ways, which also determines a lot of what I said earlier about personalized learning, experiential learning, and maker-centered learning.
It's exciting. It makes me want to go and start school from scratch. Nizar, how can flexible human-centric placemaking underpinned by digital empower experiential learning?
I think the examples, very good examples, were given by Brendan here around the illustrative real life example around this human centric and the continuity of the experience between the physical and the digital space, from people learning online and then going actually to partners lab and so on, in order to test whatever they are learned or learn more. I think in terms of the coexistence of, let's say, digital space and physical spaces in the education sector, I would share a personal opinion, and using an analogy maybe with another sector, a completely different sector, but I think the analogy is relevant, which is e-commerce. At some point, many predictions were saying, okay, everything will be online, e-commerce, physical commerce will disappear, and so on. Everything will be online. Well, it didn't. It didn't happen, because actually you cannot buy everything online, and you need eventually to see what you buy. So the experience turned as a continuity of this, as a combination between the physical space and the digital space. We even invented a word for it, which is phygital. And I think I would see the experience, the digital experience, or the education experience, as an analogy to this journey, in the sense of, okay, we will use digital for online customized learning experience, but still the physical spaces will be the space where the student learn through interaction with each others, and with physical objects and devices. So this is, I believe, what would be the future use of these physical spaces. And because of the nature of this type of use, experiential use, and the design will have to align to this. So, and I guess this is what we mean by human centric design. So this is basically to allow for this kind of, to allow the spaces not only to be the education spaces, not taking spaces, but experiential spaces. And how this would be after, I think it will depend on the type of learning, on the context, and so on.
Thank you. Well, before we conclude today's discussion, Brendan, what can you tell us about the scalability of future learning paradigms, and how is Misk Schools creating a blueprint for education's next frontier in KSA?
That's a great question. Obviously, our focus at the moment is on our own students as they stand and giving them amazing world-class opportunities. And, our congratulations to our founder, His Royal Highness's vision for the school, which is within the microcosm, if you like, of the macrocosm of the kingdom. It means that what we're creating within Misk we hope will revolutionize thinking in education, and give other schools around us opportunities to grow and develop in similar ways. And so we are pioneering new areas in all sorts of specifics around the curriculum, as you've heard me say. Also in other spaces, such as, for example, safeguarding and well-being of children. So it's not just about clever use of STEM-orientated technology and digital learning, etc. But it's also in the areas of well-being that we're focused a lot on. And we do a lot of work in that space as well. And safeguarding is a fairly new concept here in Saudi Arabia. And we're working in partnership with an organization called the Safeguarding Alliance. And we hope to be able to roll that out. We're also working in partnership with a great company called Century Tech, who use artificial intelligence within the curriculum to provide an ongoing measure of a child's learning in a way which actually adapts and changes through artificial intelligence. And so it provides a personalized route through learning. So we were the first company to partner with, or the first school to partner with the company Century Tech. And since then, other schools have picked up on that and are now also starting to roll out Century Tech. And so we're introducing what we do here into other schools, and to share our knowledge and our learning of what works in Saudi Arabia in a wider context. In other words, we're not trying to hold it all on to ourselves and say this is Misk and we want to be the best, and so therefore nobody else can have it. Actually, our mindset is very different. Our mindset is actually to give back to the community wherever we possibly can, and to share what we learn with others. And we also do that in terms of the way in which our teachers are growing and developing. We invest heavily in our staff here in CPD. We've just created a new Misk Schools Academy, which is a way in which we train and develop teachers and leaders from within. But also we're opening our doors to others. And so we're offering opportunities for internships. So we'll have our first interns join the school straight out of university. They'll come and join the Misk Schools Academy and learn within in order to then be released back out again into community schools, et cetera, et cetera. And so we hope that our academy will also grow and develop. And then they'll take the lessons that we've learned here and the high quality teaching that we have going on in Misk schools. They can then take that back out again. And obviously in time as well, I hope that Misk schools will not just be in Riyadh, but that there will be blueprints. It will become a blueprint for further Misk schools in other parts of the kingdom and indeed around the world. The vision is huge. We have a wonderful founder with a great vision and a great ambition for both the school and also for the kingdom. And our role in that is something that we take very seriously, and we're very proud to be a part of that.
All right. Brendan, thank you so much for joining, and thanks so much for your time. Nizar, thank you as well. If you have any additional points you'd like to add before we conclude this episode.
Well, thank you, Alia. Thank you, Brendan. Maybe a couple of points, maybe a comment and a question. I think given all what was really the insight that was shared about Brendan regarding the experience of Misk in education and so on, I think what our role as WSP is to be an enabler of this experience, supporting the creation of this new physical spaces for learning, but obviously leveraging the digital channels, if I may put it this way. So, and we're looking forward to supporting Misk in this journey. And maybe maybe a question to you, Alia, as a Saudi national or Saudi who has been living in Saudi. So, what do you think the opportunities are for these that are brought by these leading edge educational initiatives mainly for the future generation of Saudis?
Well, as a Saudi who lived in Saudi, who studied in Saudi, just in the past few years, what I've noticed is the change in attitude towards especially girls in education, and we see opportunities balancing out between the genders, and I only see that improving with time. And I also think future generations or youth in Saudi will be allowed and encouraged to follow whatever their passion is, whether it be in arts or athletics or technology. It's not just core science and what we traditionally learned. And that will only help develop our youth to achieve the 2030 goals and to build our futures and whatever comes beyond the 2030 vision. So yeah, that's what I see our future hopefully holds.
It's so exciting to hear you speak like that, Alia. And honestly, I think that's an area within school that we're also really excited about. The new campus, for example, is 100% aligned in terms of opportunities for boys and girls. Everything is pretty much duplicated. So that exceptional engineering suite that I told you about is not just for boys, it's for girls as well. Exactly the same, duplicated. Founder's been very generous. Sports facilities, duplicated, mirror images, boys and girls. So yes, segregation, but done in a way that gives full opportunities for the students. And I just think this whole area of space and learning is something really, really excited. And we use that word here called unfettered, where we just, we want to release opportunities for students. The 11 commissions, the cultural commissions, include fantastic areas such as culinary arts, not just for girls, as you might think traditionally, but actually boys as well. In fact, in school, it's our biggest uptake of subjects in our co-curricular program. Is culinary arts, and more boys than girls take it. So this gender thing is no longer an issue in education here in Saudi. It's very exciting. So it's lovely to hear you speak so passionately about that as well. And we'll play our little part here at Misk Schools in making sure that kids get a brilliant experience in all of those different areas.
Thank you for everything you're doing. Nizar, any other questions?
Yeah, maybe a slightly a question from a different angle. I think it's just it would. I mean, given all these changes, given all these this transformation, how does it feel to witness this transformation of the education sector, and how it would maybe enable to take a larger part of the word share knowledge and how it would and the way it would empower future change makers. So, what are your views on this?
I feel very proud that my country is initiating change in the educational sector and focusing on our future generations' success and development. And like I said, growing up here in the 90s in a rural place in Saudi Arabia, change wasn't accepted so easily. And it's exciting and unbelievable to see the pace that everything is changing at. And it's opened up so many opportunities for everyone and for girls and boys to follow whatever avenue they or ambition or passion they have. And yeah, I'm proud and I'm excited to see where it takes us. So yeah, I think that's it, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ali. It's been lovely spending time with you, and thank you as well, Nizar. That's great insights from your side as well, and thank you for sharing. I've learned a lot today as well. It's been great.
Thank you for your time, and then thank you very much, and for the insights you shared about your journey.
Yeah, well, come and visit us sometime. We'd love to host you here. Come and say hi, and come and see it in person.
I am. I'm working on the campus.
Are you? Are you actually
Yeah,
on the campus itself right now?
I'm on site office. Yeah,
Oh
lovely site
wow. Okay.
office.
Well, next time I come over every Sunday, so I'll pop in and come and meet you.
All right. Looking
All
forward
right.
to it. If you enjoyed listening to today's podcast on pioneering the digital blueprint for education's next frontier in Saudi Arabia, please subscribe to our SoundCloud channel to stay up to date with the latest industry insights.